What if I told you that being nice could actually be one of the most dangerous things you can do? That by simply staying polite, avoiding confrontation, and going along with the crowd, you might be supporting systems that crush freedom, manipulate truth, and fuel oppression. Sounds like a paradox, right? But it's not. George Orwell, the master of dystopian warnings, saw this paradox clearly, and he wrote about it to warn us about the dangers of passivity in a world dominated by lies and manipulation. Stick around, because in the next few minutes we're going to break down why niceness can be a silent killer of truth, justice, and freedom. You'll want to watch till the end to find out how Orwell's warning still applies to you today, and how you can avoid falling into the same trap. George Orwell wasn't afraid of a good scrap. He was a man who thrived on confrontation, not for the sake of conflict itself, but because he believed in the power of truth. He understood that sometimes the most important battles are the ones fought with words and ideas. He didn't shy away from uncomfortable truths. Instead, he embraced them, knowing that the only way to bring about change was to confront the harsh realities head-on. Orwell's pen was his sword, and he wielded it with precision and courage. In fact, he seemed to revel in them. There was a certain satisfaction he derived from peeling back the layers of society to expose the rot beneath. It wasn't about being a pessimist, it was about being a realist, someone who saw the world as it was and not as he wished it to be. He's best known for his novels, 1984 and Animal Farm. These works have become cultural touchstones, referenced in discussions about politics, society, and human nature. They are more than just stories, they are warnings, cautionary tales about the dangers of unchecked power and the fragility of freedom. These weren't your average bedtime stories. They were complex, layered narratives that challenged readers to think critically about the world around them. Orwell's ability to weave profound truths into compelling fiction is what sets his work apart. They were stark warnings disguised as fiction. Through his vivid storytelling, Orwell painted a picture of a world that could be if we are not vigilant. His books serve as a mirror, reflecting the potential consequences of our actions and inactions. They showed us how societies could crumble under the weight of their own hypocrisy. Orwell's dystopian visions were not just figments of his imagination, they were extrapolations of the trends he observed in his own time. He saw the seeds of totalitarianism and wanted to warn us before it was too late. And most importantly, they showed us the dangers of being too nice. Orwell understood that niceness, when it becomes a substitute for action, can be a form of complicity. It can allow evil to flourish unchecked, hidden behind a veneer of civility. Orwell wasn't just a writer, he was a witness. He lived through some of the most tumultuous times in modern history, and his experiences shaped his worldview. He saw the rise of fascism and communism, and he understood the seductive power of ideology. He saw firsthand the horrors of totalitarian regimes. Orwell's time fighting in the Spanish Civil War and his observations of the Soviet Union gave him a unique perspective on the nature of power and oppression. He didn't just write about these things, he lived them. He fought against them, both on the battlefield and with his pen. Orwell's commitment to truth and justice was unwavering, and he used every tool at his disposal to combat the forces of tyranny. His writing was a form of resistance, a way to fight back against the darkness. He knew that evil didn't always wear a scary mask. Sometimes it wore a friendly face and spoke in soothing tones. Orwell's work reminds us that we must be vigilant, that we must look beyond appearances to see the true nature of things. Sometimes it wore a friendly face and spoke in soothing tones. This is the insidious nature of evil. It can be charming, persuasive, and seemingly benign. Orwell's insight into this aspect of human nature is one of the reasons his work remains so powerful. It promised a better world while crushing dissent under its heel. Orwell's novels illustrate how easily freedom can be lost when people are lulled into complacency by false promises. His stories are a call to action, urging us to remain vigilant and to question those in power. This is where niceness came in. Orwell argued that being nice in the face of injustice wasn't just useless, it was dangerous. It allowed those who sought to do harm to operate without opposition, to carry out their plans unchallenged. Orwell argued that being nice in the face of injustice wasn't just useless, it was dangerous. It allowed evil to flourish unchecked. It allowed the guilty to masquerade as innocent. It allowed ordinary people to become complicit in terrible things. It allowed evil to flourish unchecked. Orwell's work is a reminder that sometimes the nicest thing you can do is to speak up, to challenge the status quo, to refuse to be a bystander. It allowed the guilty to masquerade as innocent. Orwell's work is a reminder that sometimes the nicest thing you can do is to speak up, to challenge the status quo, to refuse to be a bystander, and it allowed ordinary people to become complicit in terrible things. Orwell's work is a reminder that sometimes the nicest thing you can do is to speak up, to challenge the status quo, to refuse to be a bystander. Orwell's work is a reminder that sometimes the nicest thing you can do is to speak up, to challenge the status quo, to refuse to be a bystander, to challenge the status quo, to refuse to be a bystander. In a world obsessed with being agreeable, Orwell's message is more relevant than ever. His work teaches us that true niceness is not about avoiding conflict, but about standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult. To refuse to be a bystander. In a world obsessed with being agreeable, Orwell's message is more relevant than ever. His work teaches us that true niceness is not about avoiding conflict, but about standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult. In a world obsessed with being agreeable, Orwell's message is more relevant than ever. His work teaches us that true niceness is not about avoiding conflict, but about standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult. Orwell's legacy is a call to action, a reminder that we must always strive to be more than just nice. We must strive to be just. 1984 is a terrifying vision of the future. It's a world where Big Brother is always watching, where thought is controlled, where love is a crime, and where niceness is a weapon used to enforce conformity. Enter Winston Smith, our protagonist. He's trapped in this dystopian nightmare. He just wants to think for himself, to feel something real. But in Oceania, that's a dangerous desire. Winston learns the hard way that niceness is a survival tactic. It's how you blend in, how you avoid the thought police. It means smiling at your enemies and betraying your own thoughts. It means accepting lies as truth and cruelty as kindness. Winston's story shows us that true evil doesn't announce itself with a bang. It creeps in slowly, disguised as normalcy. It convinces us to be nice for the sake of peace, even when that peace comes at the cost of our freedom and our souls. Animal Farm is a deceptively simple story. On the surface, it appears to be a tale about farm animals, but beneath this simplicity lies a profound and complex narrative about power, control, and the fragility of freedom. A group of animals overthrows their human oppressors, dreaming of equality and freedom. They envision a utopia where all animals are equal, where they can live without fear or exploitation. But their revolution soon turns sour. The initial euphoria fades, and the harsh realities of their new society begin to surface. The animals find themselves grappling with unforeseen challenges and internal conflicts. The pigs, led by the cunning Napoleon, seize control. They position themselves as the new leaders, promising to guide the farm to prosperity and fairness. They create a new hierarchy, one even more brutal than the one before. How did this happen? The very ideals that sparked the revolution are twisted and corrupted. The animals were initially blinded by their desire for change. They were so eager to escape their previous suffering that they failed to see the warning signs of emerging tyranny. They were too nice to question the pigs' motives. Their trust was given freely, without scrutiny or skepticism. They trusted that their leaders had their best interests at heart. The pigs' eloquent speeches and promises of a better future were enough to win their loyalty, but their niceness made them vulnerable to manipulation. The pigs exploited this trust, using it to consolidate their power. The pigs exploited their comrades' good nature. They took advantage of the animals' willingness to believe in a common cause. They used propaganda and fear to silence dissent. Any animal that dared to question the pig's authority was quickly labeled a traitor and dealt with harshly. They rewrote history to suit their narrative. The commandments that once promised equality were altered to justify the pig's actions, and they turned the animals against each other, all while preaching unity and brotherhood. The farm descended into chaos, with animals pitted against one another. Animal Farm is a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind trust. It shows how easily good intentions can be corrupted when power is left unchecked. It's a reminder that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The pigs, once comrades in the struggle for freedom, became the very tyrants they had overthrown, and it shows us how even the best intentions can pave the road to hell if we're not careful. Vigilance, critical thinking, and the courage to question authority are essential to preserving freedom and preventing tyranny. Orwell wasn't just a writer of fiction. He was a man deeply engaged with the world around him, a keen observer of human nature and societal dynamics. His works often reflected his own experiences and the moral dilemmas he faced. He was a keen observer of human nature. Orwell's ability to dissect the complexities of human behavior and societal expectations was unparalleled. He didn't just write about characters, he wrote about the very essence of what it means to be human. In his essay, Shooting an Elephant, he recounts a personal experience that perfectly illustrates the paradox of being nice. This essay is not just a story, it's a profound exploration of the conflicts between personal morals and societal expectations. As a young police officer in Burma, Orwell was tasked with dealing with a rogue elephant. This was no ordinary task. It was a situation fraught with tension and the weight of colonial expectations. The elephant was causing trouble, but it wasn't actively harming anyone. It was a creature out of its element, much like Orwell himself in the colonial setting. Orwell, armed with a rifle, felt the pressure of the crowd. The eyes of the villagers were upon him, expecting him to take decisive action. The weight of their expectations was almost palpable. They expected a show, a demonstration of colonial power. The crowd's anticipation was not just for the resolution of the immediate problem, but for a display of authority and control. Orwell didn't want to shoot the elephant. He was conflicted, torn between his own moral compass and the expectations of those around him. He knew it was wrong. Deep down, he understood that killing the elephant was not the right course of action. It was a moment of intense moral struggle. But he also knew that refusing to do so would make him look weak, foolish, not nice in the eyes of the Burmese people. The fear of losing face, of appearing indecisive or cowardly, weighed heavily on him. So, he gave in to the pressure. He raised his rifle, not out of conviction, but out of a sense of obligation to the expectations of others. He killed the elephant, not out of necessity, but out of a misguided sense of obligation. This experience haunted Orwell. It was a decision that would linger in his conscience, a reminder of the cost of yielding to external pressures. It showed him how easily our actions can be swayed by external pressures. The incident was a stark revelation of how societal expectations can override personal morals. It taught him that sometimes being nice means betraying your own moral compass. The desire to be seen as agreeable or strong in the eyes of others can lead to actions that conflict with our true values. And it revealed the uncomfortable truth that even the best of us are capable of great cruelty when we prioritize social acceptance over our own conscience. Orwell's experience serves as a powerful reminder of the personal cost of being nice, and the importance of staying true to one's own moral beliefs, even in the face of overwhelming external pressure.